Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Middle East Breakdown on ME24, Middle East 24, our weekly podcast that invites top experts on the Middle East and North Africa to break down complex and burning issues for you. I'm Hayvi Bouzo, co-founder and co-editor, alongside my co-editor and co-founder, Dan Feferman. Dan, you are now in the US on a speaking tour, and I can finally say to you good afternoon.
We're on the same time zone for a change. It doesn't happen very often.
I know, which is great for our team. And, we're today going to be talking about such an important and urgent issue that is not getting the attention and the coverage that it deserves, which is the developments in Sudan. We saw there were so many atrocities, really heartbreaking footages and videos that came out. And I personally don't feel like I know so much about what's happening in Sudan. And I'm sure a lot of our audience feel the same way, but it doesn't make it not very important. And I think our audience deserves to understand what's happening. And that's why we have great guests with us today to explain more.
Absolutely. In recent weeks, this has taken the international spotlight in the news, and you see conflicting reports. And even for seasoned Middle East watchers, reporters, analysts like ourselves, it's hard to make sense of this. There are reports that there have been 150,000 killed in the recent fighting since this started last year, over 12 million displaced. And a lot of people in the region are asking basic questions. And as you said, it's not received the attention that it deserves. A lot of people don't know who's who. As we have already seen, and as we'll try to unpack today, there's a lot of misinformation. And so it makes it,
AI videos, including AI generated videos.
including AI videos, which make it so hard to understand what's going on. And there are so many international actors involved and backing different sides. So that's what we're going to try to make sense of today with our two fantastic guests. Before I introduce them, Havy, do you want to introduce the people our show?
I'm really looking forward to hearing from our guests, including one of our guests actually on the ground in Sudan right now. But I do want to let you guys know that you are listening to Middle East 24, ME24 Breakdown, your go to source for fast and accurate information, analysis, and content on the Middle East. Our agenda is to cut through the propaganda and media bias so that you get the real story of what's actually happening. Launched in partnership with Visegrad24, we are changing the game of Middle East news, information, and analysis. Make sure you're following us on X, on Instagram, and now on YouTube. And the links are in the caption, of course. Also, make sure to give us a good rating on Spotify or whatever it is that you use for your podcasts. And every week here on ME24 Breakdown, we will take you behind the scenes on the hot issues of the day. So you will basically know and find out what's actually happening and what's important that you're not getting on traditional and media or on social media.
Absolutely. And so today, we're very glad to be joined with Dr. Tayseer Mustafa from Sudan, goes back and forth currently in the UAE, and she's a member of the Supreme Leadership Tasis Coalition, which she will tell us what that means throughout the interview. And she's a businesswoman and a peace advocate. And we also are very honored to have with us Dr. Alaa Eldin, who is the spokesperson and Minister of Health for the Tasis Coalition. And as you said, Habi, he is on the ground in El-Fashir right now. And so he'll give us a very, very unique perspective of what's happening. So maybe we'll start with that. Dr. Aladdin, you're on the ground in the hot zone of or one of the most talked about parts of this conflict. Can you give the audience maybe a picture of what is happening where you are in the El-Fashir region? What is the area? What is the atmosphere? What's happening day to day?
Okay, Dan, thank you for having me in the show, and thanks, Hayvi and Hi Tasir. Yeah, I arrived in Al-Fashir 2 days ago in a big delegation from the Sudan Peace Government. We are based in Niala. Niala is the capital for our government that was declared 1 month and a half, maybe up to now, yes, like in the 24th of August. And this government originates from the Tasis Alliance. Taysir can elaborate more during the show. As you said, the Al-Fashir, like it was the first, maybe in the trending in some social medias, and news from Al-Fashir went viral, and many of the like celebrities throughout the football celebrities and even the cinema celebrities, they tweeted with and put an X post with save Sudan. And yeah, it's indeed, we want to save Sudan. We want all the people to react with what's happening in Sudan, but in the right way. What was there in the media throughout this media campaign was fake, because this was a well prepared media campaign to go as so and to show up after Al Fashir liberation by the Tasis alliance and the Tasis forces and the RSF forces after a military operation. Maybe Al Fashir was the longest military operation throughout the war in Sudan. So, and really, it was a very tough fight till liberating the city. But unfortunately, they prepared this fake media campaign because of the highest and highly importance of Al Fashir, like historically, strategically, security, and even social. Al Fashir itself was safe during the start of the war, and the governor of Al Fashir, the previous governor, reached a deal that to save Al Fashir and to bring the RSF and the SAF out forces. The joint forces, the forces that originate from the Juba Peace Agreement that was in 2020 and 2019, 2020, during a transitional.
Are you saying that the footages that we've seen online, but they are not
Yes,
true?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they are not true. Yeah, they are not true. Like maybe a 95% or 96% of them are not true. It's more than much of AI generated photos. They are much of fake videos that they made especially to help in this fake media campaign. For example, there is a famous video about a Saudi hospital that's called Saudi Hospital, and it shows that the RSF executed 460 patients, and it showed like somebody with a gun was going downstairs. This was not in a Saudi hospital, because Saudi hospital is only a ground floor hospital. I went there since we came here. We find nothing about executing 460 patients, not even a single patient. Our staff and our medical staff were there. They started working, helping patients, doing operations. Although despite the hard time that's there and there is no electricity, shortage of drugs, even did operations for the injured soldiers that were left in Al Fashir, and their commanders escaped.
Interesting. And Taysir, maybe if you can follow up on this, and to our listeners who aren't watching us, Dr. Alaa Eldin is on the ground, and so he has a weak internet connection there from where he is. But if we're understanding correctly, he's saying 90, maybe 95% of the harsh images that have been spread around on social media and on international news are he's saying are AI images that have been doctored, and from being on the ground. And this is interesting. This is disturbing that this might be even the new way, something that we have to deal with in wartime, when you have one side or multiple sides creating false images.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be here with you in the podcast. And it is very important to really unpack what is happening in this tragic moments for Sudan. So yes, as Dr. Ala mentioned, most of the videos are fake videos, and from my understanding, the hospital footage, which everybody has seen, okay, and they have been filming people coming in the stairs. The hospital doesn't have stairs. It's a one floor, building. So, and doctors have been working there trying to alleviate, the pains and the wounds and God knows what. And despite the lack of energy, lack of medication, etc., etc. So conditions are harsh, yes, but we need to be very careful with the videos that are going on. Yes, there are atrocities that happen. At the end of the day, war is about atrocities. And it is very difficult at this moment in time, really, to identify who is doing what and why. in these circumstances. And it is very obvious now the propaganda for serving certain agendas is operating big time.
You know, you say propaganda. I'm curious, if we can unpack, for example, who is behind this propaganda? Where is it coming from? Who's propagating? Who's creating this propaganda that you're talking about? These doctored images. Can you help us understand this?
Yes, okay. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper and a little bit backwards. Since the occurrence of the Muslim Brotherhood coup in the 1989, okay, it was very obvious for a lot of people that a lot of their young people were actually sent to the United States. Funny enough, to study, okay, media and journalism. So in my opinion, these guys, they studied exactly what happens, how to manipulate the population at the level of the Sudanese population. Then, obviously, okay, they know that they are in Sudan, the Muslim Brotherhood, they are not majority, they are a minority. And the way to control a place like Sudan is only through the media to appear a majority. Now, the issue.
In your estimate, Taysir, what would you assume is the percentage of Sudan? We're talking Sudan's about 40 million people. Is that correct?
We are about 50 million people.
50 million. And what would you assume is the percentage of Muslim Brotherhood leaning people in the country?
I am sure if you talk about leadership, these people will not come to a million, their leadership. They will not. They depend on the ignorance of the population. They depend on, and because of the ignorance, they depend on religion. They convince people that because because they are religious people, they don't talk about the miseries of the day to day, about the food, the lack of education, whatever, and they convince them that they are going to have this in heaven. This is how they control this country for so many decades. Now, with the propaganda, going back to your question, the Muslim Brotherhood, our main issue with them is that their lack of allegiance to the country and to the nation. Their allegiance is actually to the bigger Muslim Brotherhood worldwide. And this is where even yes, we are a rich country, but we are not seeing any of our riches because it is associated with the bigger, wider groups. Now, we know that countries like Qatar, for instance, they pay for them millions and millions of dollars each month to support the war. Qatar owns how many, owns most of the TV. For instance, in England, I know that they own the TV channels.
Mm.
Okay. They own a lot of research places, and so does other places. They are also supported by countries like Iran, Turkey, and the army, or the so called army, is also supported by Egypt. Now, when we come to the world, in my opinion, we are struggling between two agendas when you look at what is happening. What is happening with us is very similar to what is happening in Gaza, for instance. It's the same people, same dynamics, you know? Hamas is present in Sudan is to an extent that nobody can even, estimate. They have businesses, they own lots of projects, lots of they have big presence in Sudan. Okay?
That's new, that Hamas has a strong presence in Sudan.
Yes, of
Interesting.
course. Absolutely.
They see if we can, you or Alaa Eldin, if we can break it down to our audience a little bit more. So we have two sides right now fighting, but the last time when we had a conversation, you said there's multiple sides. So there's that you said they're in the Muslim Brotherhood. They are controlled by Burhan, who was the head of the army, and they're the ones who are supported by Qatar, Turkey, Iran, and the actual military by Egypt, which is interesting, right? There's a combo there. And then there's the SRF. Who's supporting the RSF and what is it? What do they believe? What is their political affiliations, ideologically speaking? What do they envision Sudan?
Okay. Historically, the army of the Sudan, during the colonization time, was actually made to suppress the people and to help to support and protect the government, which is the colonizer. The colonizers at the time were Egypt and the United Kingdom. Okay,
Okay. So
in
the
19,
UK and Egypt established a Sudanese army in order to support their
yes,
control
eh,
over the people.
exactly. So the doctrine of the army was to support those governments. And it is built on whatever the Sudanese, they want something, there is an uprising, whatever, they just,
Suppress.
hit the people or. So you will find that this has continued. In 1956, the British people left, but the Egyptians, they never left the control of the army. So the army has always been, up to this day, under their control. And you can see this actually with the number of coups. We always try to do democracy, it doesn't last,
Mm.
it gets toppled. So there is a lot of influence on the army as well as on the political parties as well. The political parties that have been developed in Sudan, they are also influenced, sadly. Also, another thing, the political parties, none of the old traditional parties have anything to do with the agendas of developing the country or caring about the people or nothing. They are always self-centered around what the party wants. Okay, so you will find that we have an army called the SAF, Sudanese Armed Forces, which is controlled basically by Egypt, and it was going on, affected by political parties, which are also controlled to some extent by foreign powers. Then in 1989, when the Muslim Brotherhood came, they actually changed the army. They started gradually getting the army changed by their people. So the SAF is actually made of Islamists. But the doctrine has remained the same, and the Egyptian influence has never changed when it came to
That's
that.
interesting because Egypt has traditionally tried to battle Muslim Brotherhood influences in its own country. It's certainly not happy with Hamas, who is Muslim Brotherhood on its border. So it's interesting to hear that Egypt backs the Sudanese armed forces who are Islamist.
We have a saying in Arabic, it says al-masalih بتتصالح. So it means, what it means is that the economical benefits all boils down to the economy, to the economical benefits and commercial benefits. We have discovered over the years that a lot of people are selling, because obviously Egypt is a market at the end of the day. So goods from Sudan, they come out and they are bought by Sudanese money, which have been actually printed in Egypt. Okay. So what does that mean? You know? So now you have an army which is Islamists supported by Egypt. Then you have the proper militias of the Islamic Brotherhood. Okay. And it's a number of them. You probably heard some of them are called Al-Bara ibn Malik. And I don't know their names, to be honest, because there are a number of them. They are Daesh style fundamentalists. They do all the atrocities that you can imagine. So these are completely controlled by they are completely controlled by the Muslim Brotherhood and mainly Iran. Okay,
So now,
directly.
so now we know that on the SAF side we have Egypt, we have Muslim Brotherhood, and we have Iran.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Those militias are under the SAF or are they separate entities?
They are separate entities. They are under command directly of the Brotherhood. They were working synergistically with the SAF at this army, at this war. Now, coming to the RSF, during the Bashir time, what happened? Okay, the Bashir, because the Islamists, they had conflicts among each other. So what Al Bashir did, he got the RSF. No, sorry, before I go to the RSF, I forgot the Janjaweed. Everybody knows about the
That's
Janjaweed.
the one question that everybody has. It's about the Janjaweed committing atrocities in Darfur, and that the RS are the Janjaweed because there is a connection between the two. Can you explain to us?
Yes. So The Janjaweed that people are talking about have been acting in 2003. These are the Janjaweed who committed the crimes, okay, against humanity, where 300,000 people were killed. Now, these Janjaweed are actually with the SAF now, but nobody says that.
Oh,
That's what we've been confused about. That's what a lot of people in the world are confused about.
Exactly.
Or under the SAF now. The Janjaweed.
They are now with the SAF, yes. Okay, with the SAF. They've always been with the SAF. The RSF has been formed in 2013, 2013. And the relationship is that their leaders are related, okay? They are cousins or something like that. But in those tribes, being related doesn't mean that you are in the same, line. So the RSF was formed by Al-Bashir to protect him because he lost confidence in protection. He knew that the army is 100% Islamist. He knew that, you know, and they had issues with themselves. So he made this RSF for his personal protection. Now, when the revolution happened, the RSF was commanded to kill the people. And here is the issue. Hemeti refused to do that.
So the RSF created by Burhan in order to
No, no,
by
no.
Bashir, sorry,
Bashir.
by Bashir in order to suppress revolts, and it was commanded by Hemeti, refused to follow through on those actions.
Yes, exactly. Pretty much.
We're gonna put this together by the end of this episode. We're
Yes.
gonna understand.
So suddenly, from the guy who was protecting him, he has become the guy who refused to follow his instructions. And in fact, he was the guy who went up and took him out of his office and put him in prison. So he became enemy of the Brotherhood. So the main thing that they wanted to achieve is they realized that, oh my goodness, now we have a problem. One of those forces that we have created and one of those forces that, they made by themselves, now it is disobedient. Now, Hemeti is a very intelligent man, super intelligent. Yes, he's not educated the normal education, but everybody knows he is super intelligent. Very, very quickly, he started understanding the dynamics of the Muslim Brotherhood. He in himself, he is religious, but he is Sufi. He is not a Muslim Brotherhood. He has no ideology whatsoever. And he supported the nation, you know? When he started learning more and more, he started to understand that all these Muslim Brotherhood were actually crooks. And then this is why he was supporting the civilians. He was also unpacking a lot of things. Remember, this is somebody who is coming from the bed. He's a Bedouin technically, and suddenly he found himself in this situation. Now, one thing for him, and this, and everybody would tell you that Hemeti is a very, very honest man. The guy doesn't lie at all. He's known for that, and he keeps his word. And this is why his relationship with countries like the UAE is based on this, because he is the only person today in Sudan that when he talks, with all due respect to, to the different men, this guy is different. He doesn't lie, he keeps to his word, which is very, very rare. And this is why people stick to when, it's not like they want to support, but they know, where you stand with him. Let's put it that way.
Can we ask Alaa Eldin about what happened? Like, we know that there is this conflict between those two leaders in Sudan, Hamiti and Burhan. And then all of a sudden, we see that this conflict starts all over again and atrocities were committed. Even the RSF said that they did. The UAE actually also condemned these violations in the United Nations. So, what happened on the ground?
Okay, let me just some points on your conversation. When Dan asked that it's very strict that Egypt is against a Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and it's packing them in Sudan, actually it's controlling them in Sudan, not only packing. And this packing, this controlling or packing started since the failed attempt for assassination of Hosni Mubarak in Addis Ababa in 1995. This attempt was planned and contemplated by the Muslim Brotherhood of Sudan. So when it failed, then they got total control of these people. So when they get this total control of them, and that they can get them wherever they want to jail for international justice and so on. So they get this control on them, on the wealth of Sudan and so on. So this is the time that Muslim Brotherhood in Sudan were totally under the control of Egypt. Your last question is some who with who. Right now, Al Burhan is in the top, and below Al Burhan is many alliance who they are aligned with him. One of them is the complete or the pure Muslim Brotherhood militia, the one that Taysir mentioned, Al Barra ibn Malik, Al Qaqa, Al Bunyan al Marsus, like about 12 militias with different names.
So,
Then,
just to understand, Dr. Alaa Eldin, so in
yeah,
addition to SAF, in addition to the Sudanese armed forces, you have also a
yeah,
number of Islamist militias who are also, are they
yes,
operating
Islam,
under,
yeah.
are they operating under Burhan's command, or are they loosely allied? How would you describe the relationship?
This is a perfect question. The SAF by itself, as a hierarchy of an officers, they are much of Muslim Brotherhood officers. They have the ranks of the army. Even Al Burhan himself was belonging to them. It was mandatory to enter into the military college to sign a paper that you are loyal to Muslim Brotherhood. But some people sign it because they want to join. They are not internally believe in the Muslim Brotherhood. So this is the SAF or the army officers. But the Muslim Brotherhood itself, it had its own militias from their people. That is what we call it a civil militias. It's composed of people who are in the ordinary time, they are employees in the ministries, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, and so on, so in the localities. But when they want them, they come and they wear their war uniform and they are well trained on army. And many of them, they came back to Port Sudan to join what they call the popular resistance or to join these militias, the Muslim Brotherhood militias. In the other hand, also below Al Burhan or below these joint forces is made of Jibril. Are in the past at the Bashir time, they fight Al Bashir. They fighted Al Bashir, and they were called as the rebels, and they were saying that we are fighting for the poor, that are for people, for their rights, for their will, for the freedom, for the democracy. But right now they came and ally with the people, the remnant of Al Bashir, or the people who are representing Al Bashir. These people in the joint forces, Jibril and Minawi, Jibril, who's right now the Minister of Finance, Port Sudan uh, government, what you call it, responsible for bringing Al-Fashir to war area. Because I said before, in the beginning of the war, Fashir was safe. And there was a deal to save the city with this joint.
So what happened now? Could we go to what happened now? And I was also asking about, yes, the violation.
First of all, Al-Fashir is one of the key cities because of several issues. It's one of the biggest cities in Sudan, and also of the position of the city and its proximity to the northern states, okay, and Khartoum. So this is one of the issues. So Fashir has been besieged for more than a year now, okay, and the RSF was surrounding it. Uh, and people at some point everybody was talking about, because they were civilians, okay, the RSF opened doors for civilians to leave. About just under a million they were able to leave, but then a lot of civilians were held as human, you know uh, I would say like human shields by the SAF and by the groups, that the armed groups that have actually been supporting them, that Dr. Alaa was saying there are groups called the Joint Forces, which used to be neutral forces, armed forces, but then they decided to join the SAF. So eventually, the RSF took over, and for them, especially those joint forces, Al-Fashir means a lot because this is their, I would say, homeland area. So the fact that it has been taken away from them, it weakens their position, okay, even in this war, to be honest. And this is very significant, you know. Again, because they were keeping people inside, okay, and they were not allowing them to go out, there was a lot of issues with the needs, the food, the water, the medications, and all of this. So people were living difficult times. And that's why the whole world was focusing on them. So now the RSF took over, and this is a big victory. So one of the soldiers in the RSF has committed, or has basically he has killed some people and put it on video. Now he has been captured by the RSF, and he's now having trials. And this is the thing: the RSF, they do bring people to justice, unlike the SAF. But the SAF, because they have lots of money and propaganda and support by other people, etc., empty barrels sound loud. They have, although they committed much more atrocities, nobody hears of them as such. However, in my opinion, to be honest, atrocities happen in wars. They are not, you know, they are inhumane. We don't like to see atrocities. Even, to be honest, even if it is a war situation, we try to minimize the human losses and human suffering. But unfortunately, this is happening. So now the RSF has also said that they are happy for investigators to come in, and impartial investigators to come in and see exactly what is happening. They are happy for impartial people, internationally, professionals to do that.
Are those two forces trying to control the entirety of Sudan? Or is it because of, like, for example, they're trying to take over Port Sudan? Our partners created, Visegrad 24 created a report about the strategic importance of Port Sudan. Is that where they're trying to get control of? What do you think both sides are trying to control in Sudan? Is Sudan going to be separated into different parts? Like, what is it that their objective, and we can talk about?
The objective is really, first of all, let me go back to 2019. There was a revolution. The aim of it was really to get rid of the Muslim Brotherhood control over Sudan. Now, the current objective from the RSF, from the coalition, Tasis coalition, that we'll be talking about it in a minute
Yes.
or two, our objective really is to get rid of the Muslim Brotherhood control. We never really had proper government in Sudan. We had gangs, Muslim Brotherhood gangs, you know, uh, sieging the country. Now we want to get rid of all of these things. The RSF is in line with us as civilians and a number of other armed forces. We came along and we made this coalition. It's the largest coalition in Sudan with civilians and armed forces. All our focus and the main thing is get rid of the Muslim Brotherhood, bring Sudan back to the normal, to the international community. And in order to do this, we really need to stop the war and introduce a sustainable peace process.
I
Okay.
have two questions, Tayseer. So a couple of years ago, 2020, October 2020, Sudan agreed to join the Abraham Accords, which was a surprise for many, especially because in the previous rulers of Sudan, as you mentioned, it was very much allied with Muslim Brotherhood. It was a key part of the arms smuggling mechanisms between Iran and Hamas. and a key part of different jihadist networks. And then a lot of us were surprised to hear that Sudan was going to join the Abraham Accords. If you can weave that into the answer, and also telling us about the Tasis coalition. What is the Tasis coalition? What does it mean? What does it stand for? Your government, or we'll call it, I guess to be fair, we'll call it a rival government. Is it based in Khartoum, or is it based in Niala? And if you could tell us more about it and what you stand for.
Yeah, I think what you said about the transitional government and the Abraham Accord, because this in the transitional government, Sudanese people or Sudanese leader want to change the picture how Sudan could, and it's not the country that always spoils uh, the picture of Islam, or allies with the axis, the evil axis, Iran, Al Houthi, Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., etc., and like smuggling guns, and having this picture of Daesh, ISIS, and even as the CIA said, they were having much of financial investment lands. Al-Bashir and the Muslim Brotherhood and NCP, they gave him a lot of privilege in Sudan. So people want to change this. So we want to look for a win-win situation. A win-win situation, yeah, a win-win situation with any country, and like for the prosperity of people. That's why it's happened there. And until the Muslim Brotherhood, as the C said, would spoiling the transition, cheating on the RSF first commander, and then it happens to have the coup in 2021, and then the head of the chairperson and the first commander of the RSF get aware of that cheating, and then he stand again with coming back to transitional period. Things went on to framework agreement. We signed the framework agreement. We are about to come back to transition. Then SAF erupted the war. SAF erupted the war by its Muslim Brotherhood component inside. Why? Because it was the last resort to come to power. There is no way other than this. Everything was exposed. SAF, how the Muslim Brotherhood is controlling SAF. They made a coup. Then the first commander of the RSF, which is the highest or biggest military group, knows that period again, and democracy by peace. That is framework agreement. So Muslim Brotherhood decided to erupt the war, and that's why they erupted. So they erupted again. People, unfortunately, the whole mediators in whole peace platforms, the whole international power didn't say the truth about who erupted the war and why. It was erupted by Muslim Brotherhood in the south to bring back Muslim Brotherhood or NCP to power. This is simple answer for why and whom, or then the RSF stood against that. It was the military power to stand against that. There is a group of civilians which I was belonging for in the transition period that we are like want to change Sudan. But unfortunately, much of these civilians, even themselves, they didn't say the truth. Even themselves, they didn't say the truth that the RSF standing with people, that the RSF involved in this war because it stands with people, because it want to bring back democracy, because it works against Muslim Brotherhood. That's why the civilian get a little bit fraction, till we make Tasis. Tasis right now is from a civilian military coalition that's containing about 24 military and political and trade union. For example, the group I belong for, trade union and civil society. This 24 group agreed upon the basic principles to have a new Sudan, that the supra constitution principles, the democracy, secularism, human rights protection, equal nationality.
Say that again. Equal nationality
What is the name Tasis?
foundation.
In Arabic, it's not an acronym. It's the word.
Tasis by Arabic, it is the foundation. It's actually Sudan Foundation Alliance, Tasis. Tasis, the abbreviation in Arabic means foundation. But we use it in English.
Question. Alaa Eldin and Tayseer, you're the government that you're creating right now and the Sudan that you hope to achieve in the future that's democratic and you said secular. Do you envision it be allied with the West, an active partner in the Abraham Accords? How do you see the involvement of countries like Russia and China? Because they're the same axis with Iran, but like, how do you envision those relationships in the future if you do become the legitimate government of Sudan?
I think, Heavy, that the world right now is whole, the relations is based on a win-win situation and fighting terrorism, because all the extremism, isn't it? So right now, what we are saying in what's right now happening in Sudan, this terrorism and this uh, NCP, Muslim Brotherhood, is putting in danger many areas. Is in danger. The African Horn security is in danger. The Sahel Sahara security is in danger. Why? Because of this Muslim Brotherhood. They have links with Boko Haram. They have links with the Shabab in Somal. They have links with Hamas, with Iran. Iran is invading in Africa, was throughout Sudan, by the way. They reach to Nigeria, they reach to Chad, they reach to Mali. They bring their ideology there. Why? Throughout Sudan. So Sudan is the gate to enter into Africa.
Sudan, you're saying Sudan is Iran's gateway to infiltrate.
Yes, because Sudan gets, yeah, throughout the Muslim Brotherhood and Bashir regime, it was the gate for Iran to enter inside Africa. Yes,
Yeah.
that whenever you have a man, you will go for that. I think they still can add more.
Tayseer, can you kind of if you have a thought to add to that, and then my kind of final question, unless Hayvi, you have a final question, is what would you like to see from the international community? What would you like to see from the United States, for example, where I know there were talks just now about a ceasefire that fell through? What is the main thing that either countries are doing or countries are not doing that could lead to a ceasefire and then hopefully the installation of a peaceful civilian government, a secular civilian government in Sudan?
In my opinion, we have a country, a vast country, with rich with all sorts of resources, and obviously everybody now know the race for the rare elements and the water and the food security, and we have it all. And as Dr. Ala mentioned, we really aim for a win-win situation. We have a country and a nation, okay, that is looking forward for development, prosperity. We want to focus on our people, who they never had anything, and this is what our focus is. In my opinion, I am a very big fan of the Abraham Accords, and the reason for this, I can see the benefits of everybody in the Abraham Accord countries. We have the resources. Israel and America, they have innovations and know-how. Places like the Gulf, like the UAE, Bahrain, etc., they have the financial vehicles. Other places like Morocco, even Egypt, they have, the culture, the people, you know. If we all come together, imagine just envisage of all of us, if we work in a collaborative win-win situation, that will be excellent for the entire world. We have massive desertification in the north that we know for sure. If this land is not planted, in 2070, there will not be a Middle East anymore, just because of the climate and the temperatures. So we really need to plant this desert. Who has the know-how? So imagine we all bring we are all stakeholders. We don't want to be the area of, the back garden, just get stuff, and we want to be part of this community. We want to be stakeholders. We want to see from raw materials to the final end product. We want to be part of all this journey. We have the Red Sea. The Red Sea is security not only to the Red Sea countries. We can see that it is access to the whole of the world, even China and even Iran. And if they are, for everybody, the Red Sea is important to be safe, Now, going back to Israel, Israel actually is our neighbor in the Red Sea. Why aren't we not having a good relationship with Israel? What is the reason? There is no reason. And by the way, we are the amount of Sudanese Jews, I'm saying Sudanese Jews, they have been in Sudan and today they have lots of influence all over the world, is massive. I can mention Moses Sassoon Levy. He was the first ambassador in Egypt. He is Sudanese. Naim Gawoon he used to be the owner of Noga Hilton. He is Sudanese, you know?
Interesting. I never heard of the Sudanese Jewish community.
Oh, yeah. There is a book called The Jews of Sudan.
Mm.
Okay. Go and read it. Okay. So for us, why aren't we having our people back? For what reason? So, anyway, this is what we envisage. We want a country that belongs to the international community in a good way, in a productive way, in a safe way. We don't want terrorists. We don't want fundamentalists. We have the capacity to do that. And in fact, as we speak, and maybe Dr. Ala hasn't heard this before, but we are in the process, a group of us, of forming an organization that is basically focuses on Abrahamic community, you know, that is based on all of what I have mentioned. Now, the Abrahamic Accord countries, okay, and we have already the United States, we have Egypt, we have the UAE. Okay, they are all part of the Quad meetings, which are actually meeting in Washington over the last few days. Why can't we have all of them try to adopt the Abrahamic principles to try to stop this war, to try to help
Yeah.
us come together?
Yep.
So I can see that this quad should be really, in my opinion, expanded to a number of other Abrahamic Accords. Plus, by the way, also the N7, who are big supporters. The N7 will draw more people because what we are having is really a complex problem, but it can be solved. It can be solved if it is left to the bigger population. Because now with the quads, you have the concentration of one or two countries, and especially a country like Egypt, which has been under control. They need to understand that it is not sustainable any longer to manage Sudan as it used to be. Yes, we want to be friends with them all the time. They're our neighbors, they are related to us. Even my grandma is Egyptian, by the way. But we need to be on win win scenarios, which is better for all of us regionally and internationally. This is the Sudan that we are envisaging, to be honest. Thank you.
That's beautiful. And something, and maybe this is a nice thought to kind of wrap up, unless you have another, kind of one key thing if you want our audience to take away from this. But I'll give you my kind of wrap up from this is, first of all, I'll get two that come out of this is, one, I think one of the defining elements of this era is going to be what you just described, is that the peoples of the region, and not outside powers, are the peoples of the region, the responsible governments of the region are finally starting to stand up, to push back to the radical elements, and speaking of pragmatism, of win-win, of integration. And the Abraham Accords, from a regional perspective, the least important thing about it is it has to do with Israel. I think the more important thing about it is it's a shedding of these destructive ideologies and looking for win-win situations, as you said. And I think that's interesting. Kind of something I'm taking also away of this is that, as that I said at the beginning, the danger of what the power of propaganda and disinformation and media manipulation. And this is something that we is one of the reasons why we started Middle East 24, and it's something that we will continue to unpack and try to expose here. If you have any kind of final parting thought, a key takeaway that you'd want our audience to take away with from this conversation.
Dr. Alaa and Dr. Tayseer, both of you.
Or the audience or the people should have a clear or deep understanding of the Sudan problem. We are fighting the ideologists. We are fighting the Muslim Brotherhood. We are fighting the fundamentalism. We are fighting the people who are putting the whole Middle East uh, in danger. The Red Sea in danger, African whole security in danger, Sahara in danger. These are all really the evil axis. We are fighting the evil axis right now. Tasis is fighting the evil axis. Iran, Al-Houthi, Hezbollah, Hamas, Syrian fighters are here, Tigray, and that's it. So people should understand that actually if this didn't happen, then the whole security of Africa will be in a very big mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Tayseer?
Yeah. So from my side, I would like to see more involvement with more countries that are really part of the region, you know, and because I think we need more minds that would be thinking towards the win-win scenarios. We want to have a safe country, a safe neighborhood, a safe Africa, and the only way to do it, if we get support to fight Brotherhood, who has been actually in the region for such a long time, and it's not an easy task. They have big support. They are conquering a lot of the country's richness, and therefore they have access to specifically illicit gold and whatnot. So we really need support with that. Our people, the Sudanese people, are suffering like crazy. We need to find for them safer green areas within Sudan. We have a massive country. If we can be helped by getting these people into at least green zones where there is no fighting, this will be a great help. We need to involve more and more civilians in the discussion table. Having just soldiers, regardless of whether it is SAF, RAS, or RSF, or whatever, we need to have the people, the civilians, on the discussion table because we represent the 48%, the 48 million who are not having the arms. We don't have arms. We need to look onto the 48 million instead of the, I don't know, the people who are carrying the guns. They are not even 1 million. And the 48 are hostages to everybody. So we need to have dialogue with civilians. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This was really informative. I just feel like right now, I feel like I learned a lot more about Sudan than I did just an hour ago. So I hope that this knowledge could also be shared with our audience. And I feel like we have one fight in the region. The fight against extremism, against Islamic extremist elements is just, I was born in Damascus, Syria. So I grew up also with the same, it's like there's this war and what happened in Syria. And I just hope that more people in the West understand those complex realities and what is a lot of people in the Middle East, North Africa are facing. The one
And with all the disinformation out there, hopefully this episode will be able to cut through. And I think your last point is such a good one. Let the civilians be in charge, as they should be everywhere.
Thank you everybody for listening and watching. With you, Hayvi, Bouzo, and Dan Feferman, co-founders and co-editors of Middle East 24. And this is ME24 Breakdown. And we just finished this really insightful and educational conversation about what's going on in Sudan. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. And please, again, follow us on social media, on X, on Instagram, and now on YouTube. And also give us good rating on Spotify or whatever it is that you use for social media for your podcast. And we'll see you next week.